Hello my friends, in this beginner-friendly tutorial, we'll be creating a flower shop together. I'm really excited about this project because you can create so many adorable versions of the shop using the same template. And along the way, you're going to pick up some super useful skills, like how to adjust your brush for smooth, clean outlines, and how to add the perfect blush to your characters using one of my all-time favorite brushes. The only thing you'll need for this project is this template I've made for you. You can grab it for free using the link below, or better yet, you can scan this QR code to download it directly to your iPad. All you have to do is find the camera on your iPad. From here, you're going to point it at the code and wait for the yellow link to appear before tapping on it. With the template in our browser, we can hold down on it and choose Save to Photos from the options. All right, so now that you've got your template ready, let's open up Procreate and jump right in. Okay, so in Procreate, we're gonna go to Photo right here, and then we can find our template in our photos there. Okay, so the most important thing we're gonna do today is go to our layers and start a brand new layer. So I'm gonna tap on the plus sign, and you wanna see a layer 2. Now, we're gonna go to Gallery right here, and we're going to exit our artwork. What this does is lock our layers, and I really recommend doing that. Great, so let's find the brush that we're going to be using. So we're going to go to our brushes, and we're going to be in the classic library, and we're going to go to calligraphy. And the brush I like to use for this project is the MONOLINE. But I want to make my brush really nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on the MONOLINE. And there's this category here on the left called stabilization. This is a fancy word for smoothing. So the way I like to set my settings is I'm going to turn the first slider all the way up and then halfway for the rest of them. So these last 4 can be kind of in the middle. They don't have to be exactly 50%, just anywhere in the middle is fine. And this is going to make your brush really nice and smooth, and I really like these features. So now I'm going to hit done and I'm ready to start drawing. So we're going to pick out a black color for our outlines, and we're going to set our brush size to 5% there with the top slider. Now, if you make a mistake on your template, you're just going to go to the undo button and you're going to tap back like this to fix any problem that you have in Procreate. Now, the last thing I wanted to check before we get started is I would like you to go to this layer called background color and tap on it and just see if you can change the background color. See how when I change the color here, it changes the background on the coloring portion of my template. If you don't see that happening, you just want to reload your template using the steps that I showed you. So if you take a screenshot, this won't work as a coloring book. So we just want to make sure that that's working properly. So as long as it's working well, I'm going to just set it back to white. So now we're ready to start drawing, and we just have to decide if we're going to trace one of the animals here at the top, one of the critters, or if you're feeling very creative today, you could draw like your own animal here. So for example, if I wanted to draw a fox, I could design my fox down here. So I think I'm going to draw the bunny today. And even if you're tracing, feel free to add whatever details you want. So if you want to change the expression or add like a little bow, you can change the templates and make them any way that you want. And one thing that we're going to make sure that we don't do is leave little gaps like this. So if you see any little gaps like this, just make sure to close them, because that's going to create some problems later. And it's definitely worth taking your time with the outline, because coloring is really easy, but if you do a nice job with the outline, the artwork will look so much better. So yeah, the template is just kind of a starting point, but we can add our own creative touches to it. So we're going to draw our little critter that goes into the store, and then we're going to color it after. And feel free to change the size of your brush. So if you're adding like a little detail that maybe needs a smaller brush, you can always change the size. 5% was just sort of like a suggestion. And I might add like the insides of the ears. Okay, let's make a copy of our outline before we color. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to layer 2 and swipe left and then duplicate the layer. This is going to make 2 copies and protect our outline. So you have 2 copies of your critter, you're going to use the bottom copy. And now we can pick out the color that we want for our character. So I think I'm going to do like a light pink bunny. I think that would be kind of cute. So once I pick out my color, I like to just zoom in to make sure I get the color where I want it. And then I'm going to take this little circle and drop it in. And it should color in the whole thing. And of course, if your color spills out, you're going to check for any gaps and fix those and then try again. So the next thing that we're going to do is add a little bit of blush to our character because these characters look really nice with blush. So if you'd like to do that with me, we're going to go to airbrushing and we're going to pick the very first brush. It's called the soft brush. So this is my favorite brush for blush, but we don't want the blush to be too crazy. So we're going to take this bottom slider. The bottom slider controls how soft the brush is. So we're going to set it to 30%. And then for the size, maybe 2% would be nice. So now we just have to pick out the perfect blush color. So I like a nice apple red. And then I'm going to start to add on my blush here. And just a little bit goes actually a long way. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is just add some patterns to my critter. So here is a good example with the hedgehog, and you can see I added these little dashes and they just make the character look so much more like cute. So can we go back to our monoline? So if you go to the recent brush set here at the very, very top, you'll see all the brushes that you've been using. So it's an easy way to find the monoline. And then I'm going to set my brush size to 1% because I want to make sure the dashes are nice and small. And then I'm going to grab the original color of my critter. So I'm going to just hold my finger down and pick up the color like this. So you can pick up the colors. It's a good way to get a color back that you were already using. Great, and then if I go to my color wheel here, I'm just going to take this little circle and drop it down a little bit to get just a darker version of the same color. Because I don't want the little lines to stand out too much. And then I'm going to start, even that's a little too much for me. So I'm just going to do it like a little bit. And then, that's perfect. And then I can add these little dashes here. And the little dashes make it look like fur, which looks really great on animals. You could also go the opposite way. You could make the dashes lighter so that it looks like highlights. So I went darker, but lighter would have been a good choice too. And we want to kind of think about the direction the fur is going. So with my bunny, I feel like the fur kind of goes out in a circle direction. It's kind of like if you tried to pet a cat in the wrong direction, they wouldn't like it. So with these little lines, we want to make sure we make them look like they're going the same direction as the fur. Okay, let's move our critter into our shop and then we can color in the little shop. So what we're going to do is we're going to squish our bunny or squish our critter. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 fingers and we're just going to squish the 2 copies of layer 2 like this. So we're going to squish them back like that. And just make sure that layer 1 doesn't also get squished in because that would be bad. Okay, so now we're going to take our arrow and we can move our critter into the shop. And here's a little trick about moving things. You don't want to touch the item that you're moving. So I know it seems kind of weird, but look how far away my pen is and I can still move my object. Sometimes if you touch it, it just gets bigger and smaller. It doesn't actually want to move. And the best spot for it is just underneath this line because it should feel like it's sitting on the counter. So I'm going to put it just underneath this line. I'm also going to use the blue circles and make my critter a little bit bigger. So I can make it as big as I want. I'm going to try and fit it so it like feels like it's taking up a lot of space here. And then when you're done moving it, you want to just turn off your arrow just to lock it into place. So now let's have fun coloring in our shop, and that usually inspires me to figure out what I'm actually going to put into my pots. So we're going to color our shop first, and then after that we're going to put in all the flowers or plants that we want. So this template makes coloring really easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to layer 1, and we can color directly on this layer. So I'm going to go to layer 1, and then I can start picking out my colors and dropping them in like this. So when I'm coloring the top here, I'm going to make the colors here a little bit lighter than the ones that go on the bottom. So I'm going to pick up the color and darken it just a little bit because this part is like on the shadow side. So it's going to be the same color, just a little darker. And this is going to give it a little bit of like a 3D look. So same with the other color. I'm going to darken it a little bit. Sometimes those little details make the artwork look really nice. And I like to think of this area as the glass. So this part of my little shop, I'm going to color like a light blue color because that's the glass. But yeah, sometimes when I have a very narrow spot, it helps to zoom in so that I can aim the color properly and get it into the right spot. Another really good trick is to reuse as many colors as possible. So when we reuse the colors in our artwork, it helps keep the number of colors that we're using to a minimum, and sometimes the colors turn out better because of that. Sometimes if you're using too many crazy colors, it's hard to get them all to work together. I don't know if you've ever found that, but unless you're doing pastel or rainbow, those do seem to be a big exception. And if you're looking for two colors that work really well together, you can look on opposite sides of the color wheel. So I did the top of my shop in these like blue colors. And if you look on the opposite side, for me it's orange. I know that orange is going to be a really nice complement to the blue color that I already have. Okay, I think I'm happy with my little shop. Okay, great. Let's add something a little special to our artwork. So, can we go to our layers, and we're gonna just turn off our critter for a moment. So do you see layer 2 has a little checkbox? We're just gonna turn that off and the critter is gonna disappear for a moment. And then we're gonna start a new layer, and we're gonna make the glass look streaky, and that's gonna make it look more like glass instead of just like a flat surface. So we're gonna pick out a white color, and then I'm gonna draw some streaks. So the streaks usually go like sideways. So I'm gonna start here and draw a line and then wait for it to go straight. So I'm gonna hold down to make it look straight like this. I'm gonna draw a line, it's not a very good line, and then I'm gonna hold down. See how it turned into a straight line? So you just have to hold it really still at the end, and you'll see it turn into a straight line. And then I'm gonna do a little friend next to it. So I'm gonna do another straight line. Okay, so now we just have to close it. So I'm gonna put a line here to close the shape, and another straight line here to close the shape. So when we're drawing shapes that we're gonna color in, we have to make sure we go all the way around in a loop and close our shape. Great, and then we're just gonna color this streak in. Great, and then I'm gonna add one more streak. So I'm gonna do one kind of here. This one's probably gonna be a little bit thinner. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, but make like a thinner shape here. Let's go to our layers and we're going to turn our critter back on. So we can turn layers on and off. Sometimes we like to turn them off so that we can do something and then we can put them back. Great, and I think you're ready for some flowers or some plants. So we're gonna make a new layer. So from here we can pick out the flowers that we're gonna add. So let's check our settings here. So I still have my monoline and a black color, and I'm gonna set my brush size to 1% for the flowers. Right on. And then you can pick your favorite flower or you can make up your own flowers. So if I was gonna make up my own flowers, like for example, like bluebells, I might draw them here on the side and then put them into my flower pots after. It's just a little bit easier to draw it there than have it like overlapping. Or you can trace one of the flowers at the top here. So maybe I'll add like a daisy on mine. And the rule is that each flower or each set of flowers needs its own layer. So before we start any new flowers, we just have to remember to make a new layer. Otherwise, it'll be really hard to move the flowers around. So just like when we were drawing straight lines, when we're drawing circles, we can also draw the circle and hold our pen down. And this is going to give us a nice circle with a shape tool. So if you're drawing a flower that has a circle, that can be kind of helpful. And you don't have to do flowers in the pots. You could do something really silly like, I don't know, like a Pikachu in a flower pot. So whenever you finish up drawing your flowers, you can just jump right into coloring them. We're not going to make any fancy layers for these. I think we're just going to jump into coloring. Okay, so if we finish up with our flowers, so we're going to take the arrow and this is going to let us move the flowers. And yeah, just remember not to touch the box with the flowers, otherwise they'll just get bigger and smaller. Be very annoying. You can decide where your flowers go. So if you want to draw lots of different varieties of flowers, you can definitely do that. We just have to make a new layer for each new flower that we're going to do. But I think for my flower shop, this is the only flower that they're going to sell. So I'm going to just make copies of this flower that I drew. Great. Okay, let me show you how to make copies. So what you're going to do is go to the flower that you finished and you're going to swipe left and duplicate it. And now we have two sets of flowers, but we can't see the second set because they're right on top of each other. So we're going to go back to our arrow that lets us move things. And then I can move this to a different flower pot. Maybe I'll make these flowers a little smaller so they don't hide my lovely lantern. I really like that lantern. Or the light. Maybe it's just a regular light. And then you just keep making as many copies as you like. And that's what I really like about Procreate is that you only have to draw something once and you can make lots and lots of copies. And it looks kind of nice if you make some of the flowers really big, some of the flowers really small. It just adds some, makes it a little bit more interesting. Sometimes when we make copies, we want everything to be exactly the same size, but I think in the case of our flower shop, it helps if they're different sizes. So when we finish our projects, especially when you're doing the templates here with me, sometimes we want to get rid of all this stuff at the top so that it's a little bit more nice and neat and tidy. So can we go to the wrench right here? And at the top, we're going to look for canvas. Canvas is the second option at the top. Right? And then we're going to pick the first option. It says crop and resize. Yeah, and then we're going to look for this little handle and pull it down so that we can cut off the top of our page. Great. And then we can hit done and it'll make it a little bit more neat and tidy. And then the last thing we're gonna do is just pick out a nice background color. So if you like white, you can keep it, but it's also very easy to change the background. So we're gonna go to our layers and go to the very bottom layer. This one is a special layer. It's called background color. And when you click on it, whatever color you pick, the background's gonna change to that color. So you can go around and try and decide which color you think looks the best. I think I'm gonna do like a light blue. Or a lavender, actually. And that's it, my friends. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you had fun and picked up a few new Procreate tricks along the way. I post new tutorials every week, so don't miss the next great project I've got cooking. See you soon, Raccoon.